depending on what part of the world that you grew up in, or what country you grew up in, you probably have a different God or a different belief than what somebody in the United States does. Our beliefs are different than what someone in India is or someone in the Middle East is. Does that really make sense from the standpoint of having a creator? Shouldn't there probably just be one religion instead of as many as we have? I don't know what the total number is, but probably 20, 30 different established religions that are out there. That itself, to me, is a little bit interesting.
Well, things too, like the Sphinx, okay? They've come recently in the last couple of years. They figured the wear marks on the back of it was created by the sand. But now
Sure.
Scientists saying, oh, no, we figured it out. It was from an ocean. Now that puts it before mankind walked the earth, because where that area was an ocean, means it was before us. So I got a funny feeling we've been rebooted a few times. I think we are being visited and have been. And I hate to say it, maybe that's where we got our religion.
Yeah, and I think you have to be open to that possibility, right? So as different potential extraterrestrial races visit different areas of the world, to your point, man has always had to have something to believe in, or something to really keep order. So if there's no consequence after we leave Earth, then why do we have to be good and do good things and live good lives while we're here? So it really makes sense that, hey, look, we really need to be have a lot of integrity. We need to do good things on Earth and lead good lives in order to get to what is next. So that really lines up with potentially an intelligent race coming and instilling those values or those beliefs. And maybe that's the reason why there are different religions, because this race of extraterrestrials landed here, and they implanted this story and this belief system over here. And then over here, they installed a different belief system and a different set of values. And then, as a byproduct of that, now there's conflict, because there are different beliefs and different religions in different parts of the world. And that creates a lot of friction, as we know currently. And now we have a warring faction going on constantly that's just perpetual here on Earth. And wow, if you're an ET civilization that's studying Earth, wouldn't that be interesting to watch?
Well, I tell you, it'd be like, what channel are you going to flip to on the cable?
Sure. And again, so I believe that, I certainly believe in religion, and I'm certainly not saying that these are absolute beliefs, but when you look at it theoretically, these things potentially could have happened. And they certainly line up to make sense that they may have happened. Not saying that's absolutely what happened, but it could very well be. And based on what we know now, as far as, look, there is a presence here, it really stands to reason that there was also a presence way back then when we were a very primitive race of hunter-gatherers. And you talk about the Sphinx and the age of the Sphinx. Well, look at all the megalithic sites around the world. So if you look at Baal, I'm sure you're familiar with Baalbek in Lebanon.
Oh, yeah.
So we're talking about thousands of years ago, ancient people who the bulk of their time would be just survival, gathering food, having shelter, but yet somehow they were able to organize themselves to create this megalithic site that has bricks or boulders, whatever you want to call them, that are hundreds of tons. And not only were they able to quarry them, but they were able to quarry them, move them, and then place them one on top of the other, where with today's modern technology and today's equipment, we would be really challenged to do that. So how is it that 3, 4, 5, 7, 10,000 years ago, an ancient race would be able to do something like that? It just doesn't make sense, Gary.
And it wouldn't be enough slaves, okay, to have handled it. I was reading, like when these pyramids, a lot of them, they had to take these, from the quarry up to about 20 miles away. Supposedly they put them under like rollers, wood, from a tree type of thing, which is very rare there anyway. Let alone then how is that the weight of it through the sand? It doesn't make sense. Or they dragged it through the sand. Well, these big stones, how many slaves would it taken to drag it 20 miles, let alone stack it up the height of the pyramids, let alone cut it perfectly to fit virtually where we came and do it now, and let alone even the cements the cements they had, we can't even duplicate the cement they used. Because their cement is so much stronger than anything we can create, and we can't even duplicate it. So that tells me there's some technology there, far, far advanced than what our technology is. And it was no way men that many years back could have even thought about it, let alone to do it. It would have been impossible. And I'm sorry to the people who think that the pyramids were created by slaves and they stacked up the pyramids. I don't see it. They had to have some major help to do it, and technology that we don't have today.
Yeah, and I agree with you totally. So I love keeping up with and reading about ancient Egyptian archaeology and learning about the pyramids and such. And I'm sure you're familiar with Dr. Zawi Hawass, who was kind of like the curator of the antiquities in Egypt for many years.
Oh, yeah.
And he would really push back on the theory that the pyramids were created by slaves. And his point, which Dr. Hawass certainly has some faults, but I think his theory is a very good one that, hey, look, I don't think you get this quality of work from slave labor. So, number one, you're going to have really high turnover. Number two, you're certainly not... I'm sorry?
They're going to die off.
Sure, you're going to have a lot of turnover. You're not going to have skill, and you're certainly not going to have the care to create what was created there. So, again, there's another gap. So there's a gap in our understanding of what was created in Egypt. So either there is a completely lost chapter of human history that we know nothing about that was as advanced or more advanced than we are, or they had help. And if they had help, it could really only come from one place, and that would be come from another civilization that was way more advanced than what we were at the time. Those, to me, are the only two explanations. It's pretty hard to have a completely lost chapter in archaeology like we would seem to have when you look at what was created at the ancient megalithic sites.
I don't know. I just know that I don't see any way, man, at that time technology could have created what was created. And I do feel that it was created not by mankind, that I think it was created by help from out there. That's the only way I can think about it, because show me. I mean, there's been a few people that tried to duplicate building, the pyramids. And yeah, they could make a small one, but it was almost impossible. Again, the amount of slaves it would have taken to bring these big stones in from the quarry 20 miles or so, through the deserts. I mean, the loss of life would have been just just crazy, let alone being able, after they get it there, to, with the technology they had, to put it up on top of each other the way they did it, laser precision, or very close to it.
And let's think about it this way too, Gary. So if you are an advanced civilization that is from outer space and comes here, you're certainly not going to be bringing a massive amount of supplies with you, right? So if we're going to Mars, we're certainly not going to be bringing megalithic rocks to build structures there, right?
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah, so if we want to build something, chances are we're going to need to work with the supplies that are here. Now, what else can you build something out of than stone that would last for tens of thousands of years as a memoriam of your presence here? So the only thing that is going to last is granite or andesite stones like we have in these megalithic sites. They are not going to go anywhere. So they've been there for tens of thousands of years. They'll be there well after we're gone as well. So when you look at it from that perspective, it really lines up also with the standpoint of, hey, look, someday if we're going to build something here, let's build something that will leave no doubt in people's minds that it had to be built by someone more advanced than the people that were indigenous to this planet at the time. In my opinion, that's what we have in sites like Pumapuku, Baalbek, and Egypt. There just isn't any other explanation in my mind than exactly that.
Well, how about these directions? Like if you're up in, satellite pictures of it, or if you're up high enough in an aircraft, you all of a sudden look down like in Africa and there's a few other areas on this earth. It looks like landing, like would be for like our airports. Sure. Technology, sure. It's no way that it could have been done. They didn't have the technology to do that or,
sure.
to create that stuff. It tells me that there had to be something here. So that means we got to open our eyes up and realize, that there's more going on than our day-to-day lives.
I agree, and I think that's you hit on something really important there, and that is our day-to-day lives. So when you look at it, and this is one of the things that really fascinates me and excites me about the UFO topic. So there's three big questions that mankind has pondered since we've been on the Earth. So number one is, what happens? Is there life after death? Number two is there a God or a supreme being? And number three is, are we alone in the universe, right? So in our daily lives, how often do you really sit back and ponder those three things?
Well, I don't.
Probably not very often.
When I was
Sure.
young, I asked my grandmother one time, I said, who is God and what created God? And she sat me down on her couch and said to me, hey, Gary, don't even ask those questions because you'll go crazy. There's no answer for it. Well, you know what?
Sure.
I have to say this. I mean, if we think we are the only life out there. Now, put it this way. I had one guy say, well, hey, the solar system kind of wraps around where it comes back to the same place. I said, that's illogical. It doesn't make sense. That's like, okay, sure. I build at the end of my road, I put a brick wall up, right? Well, that's the end of my property, right? It comes the end to it. But there's something on the other side. It can't just keep wrapping
sure.
around in its own self. It's continuous for whatever. I don't know for how long, but my logical thinking, it never stops. So to sit there and say that we are the only life out there is, like saying the earth is flat. Now, I'm going to get people mad at me on that because the earth isn't flat. If you think the earth is flat, that's your prerogative. But
this is probably not the show for you if that's the case, right?
They shouldn't be listening. I really do feel that there is life out there. There's multiple lives out there. I don't know if they're coming to Earth through a wormhole or if they're going through a black hole and getting here. Because this recently, they discovered, NASA discovered another planet system, went through a black hole and emerged out the other side, which they always said, if you go through a black hole, it was impossible. But now they're actually realizing things are going out into a black hole and coming out the other side. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's how they're getting here. I have no idea. But their technology has to be so much more advanced than we could even comprehend.
Well, we should, and we will actually get a little bit of insight into that. So I'm sure you're familiar with the Bob Lazar story, correct?
Oh, yeah. In fact, if you want, I can continue on another 15 minutes if you want.
Yeah, I have time if you do, Gary.
I got plenty of time. I'm on Social Security.
Cool. So Jeremy Corbell, who's a fantastic filmmaker, so he had done a documentary on Patient 17, which was Dr. Roger Lear's 17th patient, where he removed a alien implant. His most recent was a documentary on Skinwalker Ranch, which if you haven't seen it, it is fantastic. But what I'm really excited about is he has a documentary coming out about Bob Lazar. I think the release date is December 3rd. So if you're not familiar with the Bob Lazar story, and I'm guessing that most of your listeners are familiar, but Bob Lazar according to his story, which I happen to believe, worked at Area 51 and actually a location not far from Area 51 known as S4.